lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to Now Slain, an It Slays podcast production where we review the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And it's Jill.
And we are here to talk about 2023's The Last Voyage of the Demeter. But before we get started, I'm going to ask you, Jill, were you looking forward to The Last Voyage of the Demeter, or did you have no idea about it or anything about this film? Let the people know.
All right. So normally this is kind of a subject that I would be interested in. That gothic vampire literature, that Dracula. I know you hate period pieces, so I know I'm expecting some criticism there. But yeah, with like the onslaught of like the movies that are out right now, we got Barbie, we got Oppenheimer, we got The Haunted Mansion, which I see is doing worse now than The Last Voyage of the Demeter. We had Talk to Me, probably some other stuff that I'm forgetting. But yeah, I think it was just like a really bad time for it to come out because, people are watching Barbie, people are watching Oppenheimer. No one's going to go see The Last Voyage of the Demeter. No one's even talking about it. So yeah, I didn't even know it was a thing until you told me about it. What about you?
I can't say this was something I was like looking forward to, as in like, I heard about it years ago and it's finally coming out. But, as someone that, is always doing these Now Slains, and I'm always in the theater seeing pretty much anything that's new in the theater, this trailer's been playing for a little while, and it's kind of been in all the big movies. They play the trailer for this, so I was a little bit excited. I knew obviously I knew what the Demeter was, and it's the ship from Dracula. And so I was pretty excited, I'd say. We have reviewed on this podcast like the original 30s Dracula, and if everyone remembers, it was my first time ever seeing it, and I like freaked over how amazing it was. So, I'm kind of into the Dracula stuff, so I was interested to see not just a different take on Dracula, but just a horror movie on a boat, which there isn't many of. So I was definitely interested in this. I will say that, I know Andre Overdahl is kind of been like a up and coming big thing, but I had never seen any of his movies, surprisingly, so I wasn't sure what to expect. But with that, let's get into the trailer, and then we'll get into the synopsis and get into the non-spoiler review.
The story of Dracula on the last voyage of the Demeter. Evil is on board.
We call him Dracula.
Where the bloody hell is it? Search the ship. Everywhere. I want to kill the thing.
Kill it. We can't even find it.
Rated R. Only in theaters August 11th.
The Last Voyage of the Demeter is directed by Andre Overdahl and written by Braji Shute and Zach Olkowicz, and the synopsis is as follows. The legend of Dracula is born. The crew of the merchant ship Demeter attempts to survive the ocean voyage from Carpathia to London, as they are stalked each night by a merciless presence on board the ship. So here at Now Slain, we like to start off without trying to spoil the movie. So this section is our spoiler-free review. So if you haven't seen the movie, you're pretty safe for the next little bit to listen. So Jill, we'll start with you. What are some of your non-spoiler thoughts on The Last Voyage of the Demeter?
First of all, I think it's a pretty difficult task to write a whole movie, and a 2-hour movie, based on a single chapter from Dracula, and and it's taking place entirely on a ship, so it can be quite claustrophobic and dare I say boring at times.
Oh.
And I'm sorry. I think it would be a much better film if it were at least 45 minutes shorter. I think it should have been a shorter project for like what they were trying to do. Like, I appreciate them trying to, imagine all of these details and, make it a feature-length film and all that, but I just don't think there was enough material there for it. And honestly, I'm someone who is like afraid of the ocean.
Oh, okay.
So I was like having a panic attack in that theater. It's so tense. You're just on this boat. You're in the ocean the entire time. So yeah, it has a lot of tension, a lot of isolation. I think they get that across. But yeah, I think it was just a tad bit too long. What about you?
Yeah, I will say I didn't necessarily feel the runtime was crazy, but I mean, that's also, we're so conditioned that this is like under 2 hours that I'm just so used to everything being 2.5 hours that I go see. But there definitely was some parts that I felt could be tightened up a bit. I will say, like, I thought the cast was pretty competent in this. I mean, Corey Hawkins as the lead, I really did enjoy him. I'm kind of, a big fan of his work. I first saw him, I think the first thing I ever saw him in was Straight Outta Compton, and I'm also a pretty big fan of the Black Klansman, which he was also in. And then just, Liam Cunningham, which is always a super pleasant to see, just kind of like one of the like great character actors. And I also have to give a big shout out to the guy that's probably having like the best year for a character actor, and that's David Datsmalchian, or I can never say complicated last names. But yeah, we've gotten to see him a ton. He was in like The Boogeyman this year. He was in something else too this year, and I can't off the top of my head. Oh, he was in Oppenheimer also.
Oh, sure.
So he was kind of like one of the antagonists in Oppenheimer. And just, I love to see this guy just winning. This guy goes from, this kind of bit part in The Dark Knight to just in everything. Anything horror he wants to be in. But yeah, I felt, like you said, this was a tall task. I mean, I'm not going to say Dracula is, the biggest probably horror property there is, but it's the biggest horror property there is, really.
Yeah.
It's like kind of... the granddaddy of all horror. So you got some big shoes to fill. I feel like, when anyone thinks of Dracula, I mean, obviously I'm automatically gonna go to our boy, Daddy Lugosi. Also people our age and maybe our parents' age would go into like the 90s Bram Stoker and Gary Oldman. But like we've just had these really kind of sophisticated, very talented actors play what we've always viewed as Dracula, where this is like a very different take on Dracula. We're dealing with more like beast than man.
Yeah, it's a good monster movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the fresh take that they did on that, you normally see like that, dark, brooding, romantic kind of like Byronic hero for Dracula, but it's cool to see him straight up as a monster. And I think they did, maybe the best part of this film was their creation of this creature, and he looked fantastic, and it was scary.
He definitely did, for most part, look pretty good. I thought there was a couple spots where, they definitely went back and forth between like a CGI monster and then like an actual actor in a suit, and I felt you could tell the difference. But for the most part, I kind of knew, all right, this is like an actor in a suit, you could tell the guy was really going for it, and it was good. I think this might even be I thought to myself watching it, like, I think this may be even a little more brutal than I thought it was going to be. I will admittedly say that I did not take the time when it came out to watch Tom Cruise's The Mummy. But, Universal just notoriously dropping the ball on their monsters pretty much since like the 30s. So I'm interested to see if this was kind of the entry into doing something a little more brutal for their monsters. I feel like maybe not, because as time goes, as we get into the next week, I've been seeing a lot of articles popping up about how this basically just has bombed at the box office.
Really?
Yeah, it's just like not doing good numbers, which, I don't know necessarily if it's its fault. We're still in the Oppenheimer Barbie stage of things. So people are still flocking to those, and no one really has time for anything else. But I do want to say that I think you were right with the tension. I think someone that can't swim like myself also is not a fan of water. Not like I don't shower or anything. I just don't want to. Well, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, let's not lie to the listeners.
Yeah,
here.
that's right. What is a shower? But yeah, like I thought a lot of the like night scenes in this and stuff, I thought they kind of did a good pick me off type horror movie. Like it really had a monster slasher feel to it. I'll say more in the spoiler section, but as I said before, I think there was a lot of brutality to this that I was surprised about. They did some things that you wouldn't really think like a mainstream horror product coming from like a Universal would really do. So I was pretty impressed that they it seems they really let Andre Overdahl do what he wanted to do and kind of bring this vision to life. Did you have any other spoiler-free notes on this?
Not really.
Yeah, I think, we're kind of dancing around what happens in this movie and more specifically. So I think with that, the only question to ask is, would you recommend this for the people to go see?
Okay, that's tough. Because, I really wanted to like it. I wouldn't personally go see it again.
Yeah.
But if it's something that you're like truly interested in, I will say that I went with a bunch of friends that I dragged to this, and they all loved it, to my surprise. I was like the only person who was like, didn't really have a good time. And it's usually the other way around. Usually I like everything and they hate everything. So like, yeah, maybe most people would love this movie. But personally, I didn't have the best time watching it. Like I said, I got bored, a bit panicky. So I don't know. If you're interested in it, go see it. If you have the time, go see it. But I can't tell you that it's a great movie, but what about you?
I can let you know that you are not alone, and I'm not just quoting amazing shows like The X-Files here.
Oh, God.
As much in the spoiler-free section as I've kind of said, how I was surprised at all this stuff, I too did find myself kind of drifting off watching this, just kind of looking around and also, I don't know if it was my expectations of what I expect from like anything with Dracula associated with it. I thought, what do as the kids say, mid. I thought it was like kind of mid. I thought it was a real telling. I was there. Like I said, I went there like the first night it opened at my theater, and it was me, and I think I was the youngest person there. It was all like people over like 50, 55, which I could see like Dracula, there probably some literary hounds going on that wanted to see this. But I did notice like zero reaction throughout the whole movie from like any of them. There was no like, oh my God, or what, anything. It was just like silent. And even coming out of the theater, I found a lot of people were like, oh yeah, okay. Which is, like I said, how I kind of felt about this. I didn't hate my time with it. There were some things I liked, but I can't really, give it the highest of praise. This is probably one that you could wait until it like goes to streaming or something to see, you probably don't have to like rush to see this in the theater. So yeah, I'd say that sounds like it's two pretty like low recommendations on this one. Some mid recommendations.
Mediocre.
So I think with that, let's get into the spoiler section. So this is the time, if you haven't seen this film, shut this off. If you plan on going to see it, go see it, then come back to this spot, because we are now going to get into the nitty gritty of this movie and spoil it and just talk about everything. So yeah, if you don't want it spoiled, leave now. If you do, stay, and let's cut to the spoilers. All right, Jill. So let's start with our spoiler discussion on this. What did you have to say?
I don't really have much that's like, gonna spoil anything, but I keep trying to compare it to other, like monster movies. And honestly, I think it's a story that's better told in other movies where you have like a monster and you're in a confined space being picked off one by one, such as like Alien and The Thing. They just do it so much better, so it's hard to watch something like this and what's coming, what's gonna happen, and I'm still bored, Yep. I think Dracula was the best part of the movie, even though he didn't have that much screen time, which I understand, because if you want your monster to be scary, you don't want them to be on the screen the whole time. Yeah, and like I said, it was too long for me. There were some good jump scares in there, and I'm
always terrible at like judging jump scares because I just feel like I'm numb to life. So
oh yeah, no, they always get me because I'm a jumpy person. So every time they get me. And the only other thing I want to say is that I love Liam Cunningham, so I was looking forward to him. Sir Davos from Game of Thrones. He's my boy as Captain Elliot in this movie, and I think he was born to act as a seafaring man. Just does it so well.
He was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, all they really needed was to merge into some sort of universe where they land at the lighthouse and Robert Pattinson and
oh my god,
yeah, and they all incredible. Jump on the boat. But he was fantastic, and I kind of agree with everything you said. I could see like a lot of the jump scares maybe for just kind of the average goer that isn't like me watching fucked up shit 24/7, could jump at it. But yeah, I just think this movie would have been better served as not associated with Dracula. If this was just a vampire monster movie, I probably would be a little nicer to it. They kind of did it to themselves. You want to have Dracula to promote this. I mean, you've got to be able to hold up to just like all the weighted history of this character. Yeah. And like I said before, like I do think it's interesting that we're kind of exploring this like Dracula as an animal and not necessarily as a man, because I do think, that a lot of the times what we don't necessarily get, even in like the Lugosi version of this, is, Dracula is an animal that is like masquerading as a man, not a man masquerading as an animal. So I do appreciate that finally someone kind of explores like, at the end of the day, like this is a hungry animal and it's just like vicious and attacking. But I feel like it is really hard to not have like any sort of like man aspect to it, which they try to pull off in the ending kind of.
Yeah.
Which I just didn't really think worked, because I'm like, all right, he's in this bar, but he's still like, he doesn't look any different. Like he's obviously fed and everything, but he still looks exactly like the beast that he was on the ship. And I'm like, well, how is he just walking around London like looking like this?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make any real sense. And I will will get back to the ending later. There's lots of other stuff
Mm-hmm.
I thought about. I did want to like quickly talk about the brutality, as I keep saying, of it. Obviously, Rowan's I'll have to name, like, I guess it'd be a test named after me. It'd kind of be like the Bechdel test, but it's like
Yeah.
the Fraser test, the Rowan test.
For gore,
Well, for just like,
brutality.
did you A, kill a child? Did you B, kill a dog?
Oh my god.
Check, and check.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that's what I was talking about in the spoiler-free section, is like, I'm very surprised they did cross that line of killing a dog, killing a kid, which
Yeah.
you really don't see in like a mainstream, like, you know, like a mainstream property like this. To me, that means, okay, we're coming to play.
Yeah. I must be like numb because I was like, cool, kill the kid. When it comes to the dog though, I'm like, that's crossing the line. But I'm kind of used to it now because, you know, if you got a horror movie, you got to kill the dog. Like, that's just the rules. I don't make the rules. But yeah, I thought it was kind of brutal. But I just want to go back to like the fact that, you know, Universal Monsters, they're sitting on such a gold mine, and they're doing nothing with this franchise.
I mean, every time they try to boot up a universe, it just never works, ever.
Like, you have so much material. Why aren't they doing something with it? Like, oh my god, I would love to see, you know, a really good Dracula movie. I'd love to see a really good Frankenstein movie. Jesus, someone please make it happen.
I mean, Tom Cruise just buried it all by destroying the dark universe before it even started.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess, you know, they've had we shouldn't shit on them totally. They did have the big success with the Invisible Man, like that that was actually, I still have never seen it, but I mean, that was
Right.
like a massive thing when it came out a couple of years ago, and like critically acclaimed and all this stuff. But yeah, they haven't been able to really capitalize on what they're sitting on.
Yes.
Which I think is interesting because it just kind of goes to show you like how, even if all the other ones are really old, like just like how special kind of in a time capsule those are, that they let so many of those worked in the 30s. Like I said, I think really my main issue with this movie in general was, you've got the name Demeter, so I know where we're going. We're going to London.
Yeah.
But to me, you have to have some conversation with the original Dracula film, or like any of these Dracula films, because the glaring thing missing for me is like there's no Renfield.
There's no Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, Dracula wasn't Nicolas Cage, first of all, so that was a big issue. And where was Nicholas Hoult in all of this?
Also, yeah.
To me, because, you know, the ship does crash into London, because obviously by that time everyone is dead, which they aren't, because our lead is not dead. So Clement's still alive, where I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense, because if you are a Dracula person, you know, like, this ship washes up to London, especially the original film, the iconic scene where the police come, they open the bottom, I don't know, the door to the bottom of the ship. I don't know any of these fucking ship name.
The Hull?
The Hull. And, you know, there's like the iconic shot. One of the iconic shots of Dracula is like, all they see is Renfield just like going mad. And it's Renfield and dead bodies. That's all that's, well, in Dracula, but they don't know that yet.
Yeah.
You know, they've just totally kind of rewritten what happened
Glazed
here.
over that, yeah.
Which, like I said, why not just kind of make this a different thing? And then I don't really care. Even if it's like brushing against Dracula, like call it another vampire, like make it something else, and I could live with that. But yeah, I just thought it was weird that it didn't have any of that kind of association with it.
I think people are pretty mad too that like I think the film wasn't like getting the traction that they like or the interest that they wanted before it came out, and they started to rebrand. I think in Australia, I don't know if they did it here, but they renamed it Dracula, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, to like pull in people. So I don't know, I feel like that would piss me off more if you go in expecting all this Dracula and you get very minute portions of what you expect.
I mean, I was interested in the name of this anyway, how it would play box office wise and stuff, because, you know, as important as Dracula is as a text and stuff, I mean, I just feel like for a mainstream audience, I mean, as horror people, like, yeah, okay, we know Dracula, but it's like there hasn't really been like a relevant Dracula movie in a long time. And, you know, the younger and younger people that I talk to, like, I don't know that many young people that have read Dracula as a book, so I'm not sure they would really connect the text with, you know, Demeter being, oh yeah, okay, this is a Dracula film.
I don't think so. I think they would probably look at that and be like, oh, the goddess, you know, instead of
they'd be
Dracula.
Like, oh, there's some old music in the trailer, some Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh my god. Okay, I totally forgot about the trailer when you were talking about seeing it in all these movies. But yeah, I did see the trailer and the Smashing Pumpkins. And you know, what a bad time to have Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, kind of fitting that you pick a band
going off.
Kind of fitting you pick a band that the lead singer kind of looks like he's a vampire because he's so pale. But yeah, just not a prime time for old Billy right now.
No.
Just like out there getting canceled and being problematic. But I mean, I can't deny it's a bop. But
you know, it is always a bop. That, you know, whatever, it is what it is.
I think it's important to kind of touch on what you said. I did want to talk a bit about, I think you were dead on with kind of the influences of The Thing and Alien, but I did think a lot about The Thing when I was watching this, because obviously when you have something this claustrophobic with a crew that's like cut off from like any communication to the outside world, you know, obviously you're gonna go and you're gonna play into like the mistrust and just the paranoia of it all, which I felt like they didn't lean into that hard enough. Like you would have the paranoia, but then you know, it would be quick and it'd be like, all right, we're all friends again. We all
it
get
wasn't as good. It wasn't executed as well as The Thing. I mean, The Thing is just so perfectly done that this pales in comparison. So it's hard to watch it.
I mean, like you said, there's really not like a lot to spoil and talk about. I mean, it's Dracula on a ship, so he's just eating people.
I don't know if you know, but people are calling this movie Dracula Boat.
Dracula Boat, I like it.
Online, yeah, and they're like, why isn't Dracula driving the boat?
This sounds like it should be on Tubi, and I hope someone,
you know what,
the Asylum needs to work on their own version out immediately called Dracula Boat.
Agreed.
I like that, but I do want to voice another displeasure, which I kind of already touched on, the ending. I don't think I've ever been so verbally pissed at a movie, and I'm just like, you motherfuckers. You know, of course, yes, this is only a chapter out of the Dracula novel. I get that there's more to the Dracula story, but why is Clemens living? Why is he alive? Like, we should have just killed everyone. It would have been far more scarier if at the end Dracula is let loose on London.
That was the point.
Yeah, without people knowing.
Yeah.
But no, we have to like set it up as this wink of like, oh, maybe if this does good, we can like make another movie.
It's pretty dirty, huh?
Yeah, so we create Clemens as this like Van Helsing character, and I just thought it was like such a cheap way to land the plane on this one. Like, just kind of like the smile from like Dracula, and then just like disappearing off to the night. But then it's like, you can't even just do that corny ending. They've got to like have the fucking monologue while Clemens is like walking down a alleyway being like, I'm never gonna rest until I kill Dracula. And it's like, all right, a little melodramatic here, Clemens.
Yeah, good for you, man. Just move on. Should have died.
I thought a really cheap way to just,
No, I agree.
end this. And they're not getting another one. Like I said, this is just bombed at the box office.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put Dracula away for a little while longer, I feel, and
it's so unfortunate.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate.
You got big shoes to fill. You got to execute it properly.
Was there anything else you wanted to discuss in the spoiler section? Are you good to rate this?
I'm good to rate this.
So if you are new to our podcast, our rating system are nay, okay, yay, or slay. Jill, what would you rate the last voyage of the Demeter?
See, this is rough because I am teetering on a nay to an okay. Like, it's mid. I would never watch it again. But, after our discussion, I am leaning towards more of a nay because, they could have done so much better with this. You got a big name. You could have done really well. Yeah, it's a nay for me. I'm just sad about it.
I was also pretty hard on this one. I think I'm going to give it an okay.
Okay.
I did think it was kind of, I thought it was mid enough that it could get an okay. I could see this satisfying some people. I think we're in the minority for this one because I have seen I was very curious on like how this was playing with people, so I know I did a little digging on the weekend on YouTube and looking at some of the bigger movie reviewers, and it kind of seems like a lot of the reviewers really liked it and were really into this. And as you could, if you've listened to this whole episode, as you could tell, I don't get it. I don't get why so many people enjoyed this. I think there's been scarier stuff. There's been more well done stuff. Go see Talk to Me for a second time, I think, rather than
seriously
see this. But I would be curious to revisit it maybe. Maybe when it comes out or something on streaming, or it's me. I'll probably just buy it.
You will.
Yeah, and to see maybe it didn't hit with me and maybe it'll hit a second time. I don't know. But yeah, I think I'll give it an okay. An okay for brutality. Okay for killing that kid and the dog.
Yeah, that did it for you.
That did it for me, but other than that, there was things that I just wish they had done a little better and handled Daddy Lugosi's legacy and Bram Stoker's legacy a little better.
I gotta agree there, yep.
So with that, if you aren't following us on social media, you can do so at It Slays Podcast. We are on Facebook, X, Threads, Tumblr, Instagram, Slasher, Letterboxd, pretty much anywhere there's a social media, we're probably on it. And if we're not, we'll probably be on it at some point. And it's always at It Slays Podcast. And Jill, why don't you tell them about the Patreon?
All right. So if you want to mosey on over to our Patreon, you can select which level you want to subscribe to. You can become a horror hound, which is our highest level, and you get access 48 hours early to each episode. You get access to Stream Screams, which is another show that Rowan and I do reviewing 2B movies, and we occasionally will pick a movie of patron's choice and review those. And shout out to our lovely patrons, Holly, Nicholas, Patrick, Mark, Socratype, Joy, and Carvey.
And if you're into spooky music, check out the It Slays Podcast horrific playlist on Spotify. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media I mentioned and go to the Linktree link in our bio. Click on it. That'll take you directly to the playlist. We upload music from movies we review, or iconic horror movies, or just horror movies we love. And it is licensed music and or score. I'll have to go back. I didn't really notice the score to this, but I do know a lot of people were saying they enjoyed it. So I might have to just take a listen without the visual and see if any of this meets the criteria to be added to all the other bangers on there.
The world is a vampire.
That's right. The world is a vampire. So get your spooky music on and go get a listen to the playlist. And with that, I think that is everything. I don't even know what is next coming up for Now Slaying. I'm sure we will be back with something in the next couple weeks. Like I said, we're getting in the spooky season, so the horror movies are starting to roll out, and we will be sure to start reviewing them. So I think that is everything. Thank you for all the support. As always, I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And it's Jill.
And if you keep listening, we'll keep slaying.